everyone, this is Julie from New Lighter Life, and today I am sharing with you a really cool update to the cookbook template. I shared this a few years ago showing you guys how to create a cookbook template in Microsoft Word. A few people had asked me about putting images with the recipes in their cookbook, and so today I am going to share with you how to do that. Now, as we go through today, I'm not going to go into styles a whole lot or table of contents a whole lot. I highly recommend you just watch those videos that I've created previously because they go very much so into depth on those aspects of the cookbook template. I highly recommend you download the latest version of the template, which is on the blog, and I'll put a link in the description. If I click over to this first recipe, the way that I'd always thought of inserting a photo would be to insert picture, and I'm just going to pick a random picture that I have on my desktop. If I had done that, just inserting it, you'd have to, trim this down, adjust your title, and it's just not the best way to insert an image. The later versions, I think previously maybe Microsoft allowed you to have placeholders for images, but the way to do it now, and the best way that I have been found as I've been working with this, is to create a table. Now, the benefits of having a table is that everything is structured and it's going to stay in the same, it's not going to shift a lot of your recipe around with your table. It's going to keep everything really concise and consistent throughout. Now, this document I've clicked over to, this is a document that I'll have on the website that you can download as well. And these are simply tables that I created and formatted to work with the template. And you can adjust these as you want to, but I just want to explain this document really quick. And then after I show you how these tables work, we'll go ahead and we'll create a table together. So first things, of course, there's a little description at the top: left picture, right picture, and then this last table does not have a picture at all, so if you don't need one. Now you'll notice in this top cell, this is more for informational purposes. I'm going to do a follow-up video to explain a different way to do the heading 1 and 2, and that all relates to your table of contents at the beginning of your cookbook. So you can delete this. Just wanted that information up there at the top so you would know what it was. Then, of course, we have our recipe title, which will be formatted with heading 3, and this again will pull into our table of contents. And then we have our author notes. So these are all formatted, and you can tell with the blue line around them what they're formatted to. One thing to keep in mind on your pictures, you want to make sure that these are normal formatted. If you have a heading 1, 2, or 3 on the picture, it's going to actually put the picture in your table of contents. If you want that to happen, by all means do it, but you may not want your picture in your table of contents, so I recommend you don't have that with any of the heading 1, 2, or 3. As we look at the second table, you'll see I just wanted to show you you can control a lot of what these tables do, and if you have a recipe title that is extremely long, you are going to want to see if you want it to wrap or what you want that cell to do. So these are formatted to allow for wrapping if the title is very long. And also in the recipe notes, if you have a lot of details with your author notes or author or recipe notes, this will allow it to wrap text and make the box bigger. Now, I attempted, and my goal was to have our pictures be completely square, but obviously when you have a title that wraps or the author notes that wrap, it's going to make your image placeholder not be square anymore. If you don't like that, I recommend you adjust it, but that is how these are formatted. And then, of course, this is the same scenario down here. One last thing before I go into showing you how to actually insert a table and format it, you'll see there's this gray box. That's simply for style. I did want to have a little gray box on the other side of the image. So if you don't want any coloring in your background, you can simply select these cells and then change the format to where there's no fill of the color. And I'm sorry, I do have one more thing before we move on to creating it. You'll notice that this table, or all the tables really, have dotted lines around each of the cells and around the border of the tables. That's because this document, when you print it and when you insert it into your cookbook and print it, there will be no lines. So you won't see the cell border. If you want that, you can set it, and I'll show you how to do that as we create our third table. But these are all set to not show a border. Let's get into creating our new table. For this one, I'd like this to be a top picture. So we'll have the picture on top, and then we'll have the recipe title down below, and then author notes down below that. As I'm going through and showing you how to create a table, keep in mind that I am working on a Mac. And so if you are on a Windows computer, you will have different menus and options, but it's relatively the same process. Just maybe need to adjust some of your menu selections. To insert the table, you click Insert tab, Table, and for this table, I'm going to create a 3 by 3. This top row and middle cell is for my image. This second row will be for the recipe title, and the third row will be for the author notes. Putting the cursor in the middle top cell, you'll need to tell the cell what the dimensions are. For this one, I'm going to make a cell that's 1.6 inches by 1.6 inches so that it will be square. I've created a 1.6 by 1.6 square. Now in this format, this box is going to stay 1.6 by 1.6 no matter what, because I don't have wording to shift things up and down. But let's format this box first. I can tell right away that the box, the borders are all solid. So you will see this. And just a quick way to check this is if you go to File, Print, and I can see that border right there. And I don't want to. Again, if you want to, leave it on by all means. But I'm going to select this top left box of the table. And next I'm going to go to Table Design. And it has a border style. It has all the line and all this. I'm going to click on the borders. And I'm going to say no border. Now I see I have a dotted line. And for whatever reason, I've noticed that maybe it's my computer or it's me, but sometimes it still shows up. So just, you may want to check that and be sure. The other thing I want to do before I get into editing this middle box too much is I want to put my table right in the middle of my page, home screen, and then center align. So it shifts everything over. Now the image, even though I don't see this table border when I print it, I want to get rid of all the margins so that the image just stays bound to that image placeholder. To do this, you can right click and go Table Properties, or you can go to Layout, Properties. And here we want to first tell the row, specify height. I want my row to be, I want it to be exactly 1.6. For the purposes of my table, I do want it to be square, so I want to tell it I want it exactly 1.6. We'll go to Options, and now here's why there's that little bit of an indent, because my cell margins are saying the same as the whole table, and this is just the default that Word puts a table in, but the default is same as table, 0.08 inches on the left and the right margin. So I'm going to unselect that, and I'm going to change both of these to 0. And go OK, OK. And now you can see my cursor is right on the left margin. Now as you're creating your table, especially on the image one, I just recommend you, as you're going through formatting your cell, that you keep reinserting a photo, take it out, reinsert it, so that you can see how your cell is responding. So now we'll insert our photo. And as you can see, it made my cell very wide. This is not what I want it to do. So I'm going to delete this, click Auto Fit, and say Fixed Column Width. So it's not going to let it become any bigger. So let's test it. That is exactly what I want it to do. Now let's test it with an image that is taller. And it made it higher. If you still want your image to be square, you can crop it, or you can make this box completely constrained to a square. I will show you first how to crop it, and you can decide which method you would prefer your table to be formatted to. So to crop, again, we're in the picture format now. It automatically selects picture format if you have the picture selected. Crop aspect ratio is going to be 1:1, so it's a square. And you simply drag and adjust your photo that way. You may not want to have to mess with that every time though. If you just know you want your image to be square, then it might be more beneficial to format that cell, and I'll show you how to do that. So I delete my image. To keep this constrained to a square image, what you'll want to do is keep your cursor in that box, go to Properties, Row, and see it says Specify Height 1.6 inches. Row height is at least. We want to tell it we want it exactly. So let's put that non-squared image in here, and you'll see how it responds. Now, of course, because the image is not a square, it keeps it constrained to the height and the width, and it just moves the image over. What you can do here is you can adjust the photo. I want this image to be up here, so I'm just going to choose to crop it at this point. As you can see, you have two options for how you want your cell to behave and whether you want to crop before or have it constrained right from the start. Now let's go to our second row of cells, which we're going to select the entire row and we're going to merge them. Click Merge Cell. And this is for my heading 3, which is my title. Having the cursor in that cell, simply select heading 3. Now we'll do the same thing for the bottom row. What you can do on this one, if you want another way, is you can just simply select the row and right click and then say Merge Cells. And I'm going to merge cells with the author theme. Now on this bottom row, you may have a lot of words, a lot of detail as far as notes or information, history about the recipe, and you may want this text or this box to be really long. What you'll want to do to make sure that it's formatted correctly, you can first just test out and see if it is. Just select some other text and see how that cell responds. This is formatted well. I've already shown you how to insert the photo, but I'll just show you how I would work with putting these tables into the actual cookbook. Now, like I told you before, this is for informational purposes only. So if I was pasting this into my cookbook, I'd simply delete that text. Delete everything that doesn't need to be in the table so it's clean. You want to select this top left box to select the entire table. You'll do Command C to copy, or else you can also do Edit, Copy. You'll open the template. Once you open the template, right before the title of the recipe, you'll do Command V for paste or Edit, Paste. And now you can simply put in drag your recipe title up there, and then you want to delete any extra returns. And you'll notice in this document, I have the characters turned on. That's my preference in how to work, because I can see what's messing up this document. When you're in your table, and I showed you how to get rid of your borders, if your table looks like this and you can't really see where everything's at, select your table, go to Layout, and make sure you have View Grid Lines on. To insert the photo, this is the same thing. Again, you've seen it a few times, but let me do that really quick. So sometimes they'll do that depending on the size of your image. It'll insert a really small photo, so you just want to drag and adjust. And now you'll see, or you may have noticed, that this moved my entire cell down. Because my title is 2 lines, this is no longer going to be a square image unless I tell it to be. So what you can do, you could just mess around with this, and I mean, you could just tell it you want this square image and it will save you space. you'll notice that my notes moved up here. So again, this is why I like to have my characters on so I can see exactly where everything is at. And I'm going to move my recipe notes down there. And so that's the way to work with the tables, and you can make this be bigger if you wanted to. You really do have a lot of flexibility. You just have to work in your table layout and properties for each one of the cells or rows or columns, depending on the format of your recipe. Now that this recipe is in here, a really good way to check and make sure everything's formatted correctly is to update your table of contents. And so simply go up to the table of contents, right click anywhere in the table, update field, entire table, and everything remained the same. Nothing changed, but just remember to do that. One last little tidbit I want to leave you guys with before I go for today. I really recommend you extensively edit and play with different images and how these tables respond, because they may not do what you want your cookbook to do. Just really make sure that these are formatted and it's responding, the tables are responding how you want them to in your cookbook. Then you can start copying and pasting away and creating a really beautiful cookbook with images and family heirloom. That's all for today, guys. I just want to leave you with a reminder that I will have some more videos about working with the template. If you guys have questions or things that you want your cookbook to be able to do, please leave me a comment, questions. I actually do really like figuring these things out, and it makes my cookbook better, so I kind of think, well, it's a win-win. I will be addressing the heading 1 and 2 with the tables. I will also be addressing an index, and I have a few other ideas planned for the cookbook, just upgrades to the template. So follow along, and thank you guys for watching. Hope this was helpful to you. Have a great day.